If your meetings are lasting longer than an hour, let's talk. We are going to talk all about how to run short PTO meetings because nobody, and I mean nobody, loves long meetings. No, you do not. You might love hanging out with your friends. You do not like to be sitting in the middle of the meeting, especially if somebody is being really annoying about something. You want to get in, you want to get out, get your business done, get on with your life. So let's talk about that. So the very first thing that you need to have is an agenda, aka a plan. So an agenda sounds like super fancy, and a lot of presidents are wondering like, what has to go into this secretive agenda? Really, it's just the order of business that you want to cover. So you want to make sure that you are calling on each officer, the principal, the teacher's liaison, every committee member as well. And then you want to cover old business first, then new business, and then leave time at the end for announcements. And that is really all that needs to be in your meeting agenda. So I recommend having an agenda, whether you are meeting with the entire PTO or just with your executive board or even for committee meetings, because it helps keep everybody on the same page. There's such a huge problem with communication. People are busy. They don't have time to read emails, even though that sometimes can take place of a meeting. They're not reading stuff, so make it as short and sweet. People can scan over the paper. Yes, you do need to have paper copies if at all possible. If not, everybody needs to have a link to the digital agenda. Do not be making them read off of your one copy. That is kind of sketchy. Just don't do that. So then the next thing you need to do, if you really want to have a short meeting, you need to check in with the officers, principal, teachers liaisons, if you have time, and the committee chairs beforehand to kind of pregame what y'all are going to be talking about. Sometimes the committee chairs just need one little tiny piece of information in order to take action on something or in order to make a decision, and you might have that answer, so that it's good to check in with your people so that you can help them kind of move forward, so that come the meeting day, that committee chair is ready to present a decision rather than saying, I need one more piece of information and then I have to do some research and then I'll bring it back and then we'll have to do this all next month. Like, that doesn't really help very much. Well, I guess it does, but it adds to the length of your meeting and also means you have to have another meeting. Like, you don't always need to be having a monthly meeting. Like, only if you got something to talk about. Really. So the other thing about checking in with the committee chairs is that they should not be having their committee meetings in the general PTO meeting. They should be having separate meetings. That is the whole point of a committee. So be sure to be encouraging that. Again, checking in with them, making sure everything is going smoothly. So the next idea is to use a parking lot during your meetings. And all that is just a designated place. You're going to need to bring some pens or Sharpies and some sticky notes, and people can just write their idea or write their comment or write their next topic that they want to talk about that is not on the agenda. So it's not something that's supposed to be covered, and it's kind of an aside or a sidetrack, something like that. So that way they can go ahead and pop it up on the parking lot, and then you can collect those or take a picture of that, and figuring out what needs to be incorporated into next month's agenda, or if you have time to slide that into this month's meeting. But basically, it's just a way to kind of streamline things and keep things from going off topic. If you have a group that knows each other really well, you can be super chatty and people can bring up lots of different information. And you're like, holy moly, we're never going to get through this meeting because y'all are talking about homecoming pictures or whatever, or their favorite ice cream. I can't think of all the different conversations that have stalled meetings I've been in, but a parking lot is super, super helpful, because when people like have an idea and they're afraid they're going to it's going to evaporate out of their head, they can go put it on a Post-it note and stick it on the parking lot or in the parking lot, and then y'all can refer to it later. The next strategy for keeping your meeting short is actually to table items to the next month. So if you have something that you can't take action on, you can't vote on yet because you need more information, research needs to be done, just go ahead and table it to the next month. There's nothing wrong with that. But then send out the information that people need in the meantime so that you can come to the next meeting ready to make a decision. Alrighty. And then the very last tip for running a short meeting is to kind of know when it's time to call for a vote. Like sometimes discussions about things can go on and on and on until people are about ready to like die. And so let's save them from that uncomfortable feeling by like keeping your finger on the pulse of the conversation. So the president really should be moderating the conversation to ensure that the conversation is progressing forward. People are bringing up new points. If you start hearing the same things hashed over and over and over and rehashed and rehashed and rehashed, then it is time to have a vote. Now, the whole idea of decision making for your PTO is not to come to an agreement where everybody is on the same page. No, you're going to be waiting like all year for that to happen. You're to come to a general consensus. Not everybody is going to be in agreement. That is why you have a vote. If you're waiting until you have a unanimous vote on everything, you're doing it wrong and your meetings are going to be hell a lot longer than they need to be. So really, it's hard to tell you how. You have to kind of experience this and go through it. And there are going to be times when you're like, oh, I let that go on for too long. Or as a meeting attendee, you're going to go, oh God, I wish the president would just call for a vote. My friend, you can do something about that. You can raise your hand, ask to be recognized, and say, I am just hearing the same things kind of resaid, and I feel like, are we ready for a vote? And like look around, the president will go, oh, maybe that's a clue. I should have been doing this myself. Look around, everyone's like, yeah, let's just vote. We're tired. We're ready to make a decision. Then you can kind of put a period, move on to the next thing. So if you start doing all of these things or any combination of things, I really do feel like your meetings are going to start to shrink in size. And the goal is to get to be an hour or less, because your members, your leaders, your teacher liaison, your principal will start singing your praises if you're getting in there and out of there and on with life. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed these tips and this video, and I will see you in the next one. Want even more guidance on how to be a stronger leader so you can run a better PTO or PTA? All these resources and more are waiting for you at PTOanswers.com.